Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 141 of A Stitch in Time. Today is Friday, May 15th, 2020. I'm Carol, I'm known as Knitsnpurls on Ravelry, and I'm coming to you from my home in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, not too far east of Vancouver. If you're a first-time viewer, a special hello and welcome to you. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast. And if you are a returning viewer, hello again, welcome back, and thank you for coming by once again to spend some time with me. I would, as always, like to express a huge thank you to all of you who took the time to reach out this past week. I so appreciate all of your kind comments and enjoy the connection that we have through this medium. Especially at a time like this when most of us are spending a lot more time at home and seeing a lot less people in person. If you are in my situation and if you're in need of a little company, by all means come by the Ravelry group. Join in the conversation in the Keep Calm and Craft Along thread, where there's a number of us just chit-chatting and showing off the kinds of projects that we're working on during this time of self-isolation. As I expected and hoped, I have a couple of finished projects to share with you this week. I have one ongoing project. I have revived a hibernating project, and I did give into my impulses and I cast on something new this past week. So can't wait to show them to you. So settle in and let's talk some knitting. So first things first, let's talk about these socks. They are the Ambient socks. They are a pattern by Helen Stewart or Curious Handmade. This is the second pattern out of the Handmade Sock Society 3, and I'm very happy to finish them. The yarn is Midnight Cravings Sweet Sock. The main color is called City of Bridges, and the contrast heel and toe is Afternoon Tea in the same yarn. So bring this up a little bit closer. You can see that there are columns of lacy eyelets that run up the front of the sock, and then there's just some textured columns that run down the back of the leg. And of course, it's just plain along the bottom of the foot. I like that they feature an Ive partridge heel. I think it's a nice touch on this particular design. And then a wedge toe. I never really look at her instructions for the toe. I just knit the one that I know works for me. This is a 64 stitch. No, I think it's 64 stitch sock or whatever this closest size to that. Pretty sure 64 stitches. 1x1 twisted rib. So yeah, very happy to be done with those. Not that makes it sound like I didn't enjoy them, and that's not true. But we have already 3 patterns that have come out in this collection. I have only knit this one, plus there's a new design that's going to be released next week. So I'm falling a little bit behind, but honestly, I'm not even really trying to keep up. It's just a sense of, oh my goodness, I haven't even knit the last one, and here we are with another one that's being released. But I do look forward to casting on another one from this collection pretty soon. So yeah, the last time you'll see these on the podcast. I do need to get some project photos taken for my Ravelry project page, and hope to do that pretty soon. I keep forgetting about it, and by the time I think of it, the light's changed and it's not as good in the little room where I like to take my pictures. So anyway, one finished project. And then I'm very happy to be able to tell you that I finished my Arashi shawl. And you can finally, it's off the needles, you can get a really good look at the pattern. So this is a shawl designed by, I know I wrote it down, Sarah Morris. I don't know why I always blank on that. It was part of a Yarn and Pattern Club by Abstract Fibers in Portland, Oregon. And I cast the shawl on May 4th, 2012, and I finished it on May 10th, 2020. So it's been 8 years in the making. It's one that I recently pulled out of a long-term hibernation and decided to finish up. So it is knit from Abstract Fiber Lima, which is an alpaca silk lace weight yarn, and it is a Faroese shaped shawl, meaning that it's more or less a triangle, except that there's this center column that runs down the middle of the shawl, and so the bottom ends with a not quite a not quite a point. So I'm not sure. Maybe what I will do is, so I'm not going to be able to show it all to you in one shot. Let's see. Does that give you an idea? Maybe what I'll do is bring the camera out a little bit so that you can see it in a bigger shot. Okay, so I had to move out quite a bit further than I thought to be able to get it all in one shot. So you can see it's wider than my wingspan. I'm 5'3", so I'm going to guess it's about 6 feet across and probably about half that down. As I mentioned, it has the center column and then has kind of a geometric design on each side. I'm not sure if it's better viewed against the dark of my blouse or the lighter lighting of my wall unit here. But hopefully that gives you a good idea of what it looks like. I am lucky because when I had a little bit of yarn left over, I had plenty to knit the shawl as written, but when I weighed it, I found out it actually weighed 105 grams, and technically it's only supposed to take 100 grams for the shawl, so I'm lucky that I had a little bit of a heavy skein and that I had plenty to finish it off with. So yeah, so there's Arashi. I'm not sure just how well you were able to see the design from back there, so I'll see if I can hold it. Yeah, there, maybe against that light background, you can see kind of geometric pattern. I will try and get some, there against my dark blouse, maybe that helps too. I will try and get some project photos up for this soon, because I think the one I have is when it was about this big when I had just started. So this is a shawl that could, be worn just like this over the shoulders. How convenient. I'm wearing something with red in it today. Or I think it's also light enough that I could be worn kind of, bandana style, which is how I often will wear a shawl like this. Yeah, that's definitely not too big to do. I think I actually might just keep it on for now because even though we've got a mix of sun and cloud out there, and it is warm enough to go without a long sleeve t-shirt, the sun hasn't made its way around the side of the house yet, and it is just a little cool, so it won't hurt. Plus I can get some use out of it right away. So that's it for finished projects. Very, very pleased to have a couple of them this week. What I've also been working on, you have seen my, what I'm calling my Happy Hour socks knit from Fiber Nymph Dye Works. In the bounce base, in the colorway, it's Wine O'Clock Somewhere. And these are coming along really well. This is the yarn in the skein, and I've been working these two at a time concurrently, so on 2 separate needles. They're all twisted up here. There we go. So they are almost at the same place. I have one extra pale stripe on this sock, and I thought, whoops, shawl's all caught on the needle here. That's not good. I thought maybe I would be ready for the toe, but it's still a little bit short. So I'm going to have to knit either a full or partial stripe in this color before it's time to do the toe. So they are also nearing completion, as you can see, and then I'll be happy to start another pair of plain stockinette socks because I always have a pair on the needles. So not much more to say about that. I'm going to just take a sip of tea here. So as I mentioned, have pulled another project out of hibernation. This one hasn't been in there quite as long as this one. This is my Belgrade hat. I only started it 2 years ago, 2 years ago June. It is a shawl, triangular shawl by Rita Taylor. It's I think she designed it for Blacker Yarns, and I'm knitting mine as this one was knit out of Blacker Yarns Samite, and I'm using the Sunless Hours colorway. And then they also feature a version that could be knit in several colors. Sorry, my pattern's black and white, as I tend to print a lot of mine just when I don't really need the color photo. So this is the yarn here. It is a wool and silk blend. It doesn't actually say what the blend is. Isn't that interesting? Oh, there it is. 20% silk, 80% pure new wool. And it's a 3-ply, it says. And it's constructed by first knitting a garter stitch triangle, and you do yarn overs along 2 edges of the triangle. When you reach a certain number, then you cast off the top of the triangle, which would be here, and then you pick up into those loops all along the 2 bottom edges of the triangle, and you knit from there. So as you can see, I finished, I'm just going to stretch this out a little bit. I finished the middle of the triangle. That's where I had left off. I obviously had run out of steam just knitting plain old boring garter stitch. So I picked up along the edge, and now there are 4 repeats of this kind of a feather and fan or old shale lace pattern. And then what you do is you do an applied edging along those 2 sides. So see if I can, maybe you can see this part here is an applied edging. So it's interesting because there are 3 distinct areas to the shawl, so you're always working towards that next step. So that definitely is motivating. So this is a simple, intuitive pattern, unlike this one, and so it is working up quite quickly. And obviously the yarn is heavier too. And speaking of the shawl, I guess with the alpaca in it, it's actually getting very warm very quickly. So I'm going to take that off. And I'll just drape it here. Okay, and one last project. Last week I showed you this new pattern, Walk Along, and I decided to cast it on. I had expected to kind of go through my stash, and in fact what happened is I saw some yarn peeking out of this basket right here that I had previously begun knitting a oh, I knew I was going to forget the name of this sweater. not breaking point. I'll put it here because I'm totally blank. Oh, Breathing Space. Breathing Space by Vera Valimaki. I had originally knit more or less the body, decided I didn't like the shape of the sweater, took it back to the bodice, started to reknit it just in stripes, kind of just like a very basic sweater shape. For whatever reason, I decided I didn't want to do that anymore, as I finally frogged it a little while ago. And as I say, the yarn was just peeking out of the top of my basket, and I went, oh, that would be perfect for this, because I had 2 skeins of the main color and 1 of the other, which is what I required for this version. And so this is by Anka Strick, which I said wrong last week. I think I missed that first K. Anyway, Walk Along. And I heard from several people who said that they have knit it before. One person, I think, had knit it twice, so definitely got rave reviews. And so far I'm really enjoying it. So I cast this on the other day, and I'm still on the top part. Now I have my yarn in baggies with numbers because I am alternating skeins throughout, because the skeins are different enough. But I wanted to make sure that I kept them separate so I'd know which were which. Because as you can see, after frogging my other project, I have 3 balls of each color. So this is my way of keeping them all separate so that I don't end up alternating the same, the same color in 2 balls. So yeah, I've got it started here. You cast on and knit the rolled neckline, transfer into a 1x1 rib, and then you begin your shaping. So it's a raglan sweater. Again, it's always hard when it's kind of bunched up on the needles. It actually features these wide raglans, which I've never seen on a sweater before, but I quite like how it looks. And by the looks of it, it kind of runs into the body also. And then the sleeves are being formed there, the triangles. So, yeah, enjoying this very much. I am using these new stitch markers that had been a gift from one of our viewers, and I meant to mention them before because I had them on, maybe it was on Arashi actually. I really like them. They have this bead that is kind of encased in a wire. Can you see that? So they're small, they dangle from your project, but these beads don't get wrapped up in them. And what I really like is they're big enough that, when I was doing Arashi, sometimes when you have a stitch marker next to where you do a yarn over, sometimes the stitch marker will migrate from one side of the yarn over to the other, and I was finding that just having that bead being a little bit elongated, that wasn't happening. So that was a good thing. So anyway, I love these stitch markers. I think I'm going to see if I can't find some more like that. Oh, and then I've got this pretty one. I don't remember where I got it from, but it kind of matches the project. That's my beginning and end of round at the back. So yeah, happy to have started another project. Now, I must say, it's a lot of stockinette, and I can already tell that I'm going to be looking for something a little more interesting at times. So I will have the Belgrade hap to kind of spell off, and then when I cast on a new pair of the Helen Stewart socks, that will also provide a good alternate project to this one. But this is perfect for, sitting talking to people or watching TV or whatever. Sitting talking to people. Remember when we used to do that? Speaking of, I've had a few opportunities to do that this past week. So, as I mentioned, last Sunday was Mother's Day. Oh, wait, no, I'm starting too soon. And the reason is I wrote my show notes. I left out a whole segment and it's on the opposite page. Before I get into what's been going on this past week, I wanted to talk about some sewing I've been doing. Now, up until this point, I have not felt the need to sew any masks. For whatever reason, here in British Columbia, there are not a lot of people that wear masks. It has not been heavily promoted by our health officials. It's not discouraged per se, although at first they were warning about how they thought that it would provide more opportunities for people to touch their face. And now it's seen as a potential barrier for you breathing onto other people, but we're still cautioned that the best protection is physical distancing of 6+ feet and washing hands. So we don't see a lot of masks out there, but with things starting to open back up, I was thinking there are going to be some occasions where I suspect masks will become mandatory, such as having a haircut. So I thought I should sew myself and my husband some masks, and then one of my sisters mentioned that she would like one too. So I had a video come up on my YouTube feed put out by the Fabric Patch, which is a fabric store in Washington State. And the video is titled something like, "After making 167,000, here's what we've learned." And I know early on in the pandemic, there was a real drive in Washington for face masks, I believe for nurses. And so apparently this shop either made a lot or collected a lot of them. And so this video was really interesting because the woman in it talked a lot about what's worked, what hasn't worked. And so I used that as a starting off point. And I'll put the website for the shop I'll put the link for it in my show notes. And also, you can follow all the videos about masks are on there. Also links to So the website featured 2 patterns, one by craftpassion.com, and the other was a more personal fitted mask that had been designed by an engineer who apparently had never sewn before, but he got himself a sewing machine and offered this pattern up. And it's based on a personal measurement from bridge of your nose over to here, front of your ear, and then from here under your chin. So I thought, well, maybe I would do one that was more fitted for me. So that's what I started with. And I actually found that I did have to alter it somewhat. So it definitely fits, and I've got just the loops of elastic to go over my ears. But I found I needed this little tuck here because I just found it was too long along the side of my face. So that was the first one I did. One thing that they suggest using to give it more of a stability and fit over your nose is to take like a pie pan, a good solid pie pan or roasting pan, aluminum, and then cut a 1x3 strips, and then you turn the ends in 1/8 of an inch on each end, and then you fold this in 3 lengthwise. So that gives a good stable over the nose thing. So that was for number 1. So it was like, okay, it's all right, but I thought I would try the other one and see how it is. And so this was my second attempt. This was with the craftpassion.com, and I actually prefer this one. It fits me better. from here to here. And so that's the one I also decided to do up for Cameron. That fits him well. The only thing, they talked about the straps for your ears being an average of about 8 inches, but I think this was 5.5 or 6, and I think this one was 5 or 5.5. So really, I didn't need the elastics quite as long. And then I did make up one for my sister. I won't take it out of the bag because I've had it in there. I thought it would be funny to use this fabric. Years and years ago, I sewed her some valances for her bedroom out of this fabric. And I'm just curious if she's going to recognize it or not. So she hasn't come by to pick that up yet, obviously. And if it fits her okay, and if she wants more, I'll make her another 1 or 2 or whatever. So yeah, I think I'll just make a habit of keeping one in the car, maybe one in each of the cars. Mostly I go out with Cameron together. I actually drove my own car for the first time in a couple of weeks or so on Saturday. It was kind of odd. In any case, I think I'll just keep them in the cars, and then that way if we do need them, they will be handy. So yeah, speaking of what I did this week, let's move into that segment now. So as I started to say, Sunday was Mother's Day here in Canada and the US, and perhaps in other parts of the world, but I'm not sure. So we had arranged actually on Saturday to go to our daughter's place for happy hour, and our 2 sons and our daughter-in-law to be were also there. So again, we sat outside, appropriate distance apart, brought our own drinks, brought our own food, and just had a really nice visit. It was the first time our whole family's been together since Cameron's birthday, I think it was, at the end of February. So it was very nice to have us all in one spot, even if it was only for about an hour or so. Yeah, it was great. Received some lovely plants for Mother's Day and some wine, and it was just such a nice to be together. So then we came home, and it was my cousin's 70th birthday on Monday, and his family had arranged a Zoom call for numerous friends and relatives at, I think it was 6:15 on Saturday. So he didn't know about it. The premise was that his grandkids wanted to sing him a song, and so when he signed on, here we all were. So that's the first time I've done a Zoom call, and it was very cool. And just first time I've seen 3 out of my 4 sisters were also on this call. It was the first time I'd seen any of them since we all went into isolation. We chat on Messenger all the time, but hadn't actually seen them. And then, of course, my cousin and his family and other people, some of whom we knew. I never know if that's the right one. Anyway, some of them we knew and some of them we didn't. Many of them we did. So that was a really neat way to spend, I think we were on there for almost 2 hours, and that was just such a great way to spend a Saturday evening. So the next day was Mother's Day, and unfortunately Cameron had to work for about half of it. So I just had a nice quiet day to myself. I worked on Arashi. I remember was sort of eager to finish it up. And then later that afternoon, we arranged to do a Zoom call with my mom and my 4 sisters. And various brothers-in-law popped in and out of the conversation too. But again, it was just great I hadn't seen my mom for a long time. It's just to see her looking well, and I love that at 82 years old, she's willing to jump in and try something new. My sister has the same tablet as she does, and so she got her set up on Zoom, was able to guide her through it, and lo and behold, we were all together virtually. So I think we'll definitely try and do that more often. So as I mentioned, Saturday I got to drive my own car for the first time in a long time, and went and picked up some hanging baskets and planters that I'd ordered as part of a fundraiser through the curling club. So it's nice to have the flowers around now. My lilac that I received last year from Jessica for Mother's Day is in full bloom right now, as is the rhododendron out front. So it's just, I love this time of year when there's so many things that are blossoming. Our dogwood is now completely done. There's just the last few petals hanging on for dear life, but we did enjoy that while it lasted too. Today is my son-in-law's 40th birthday, and so my daughter has arranged a drive-by happy birthday parade at 5 o'clock tonight, and then we're also going to go and have a supper there. So again, we'll do the whole social distance thing. We'll take turns, bring our own food, take turns at the barbecue, and sit well apart. It's a long weekend here in Canada. It is Victoria Day weekend, so Saturday, Sunday, Monday. British Columbia is delaying their easing of restrictions until after the long weekend. So starting Tuesday, some restrictions will be eased, and some more types of businesses will be allowed to reopen. It was interesting. My cousin's daughter is a hairdresser, and on Saturday she was saying that a lot of hairdressers aren't actually ready to reopen, and that they're still trying to figure out how to do haircuts in the safest way possible. And that they sort of heard, oh, you're allowed to reopen, without really being ready for it. So I think a lot of them will probably stay closed for a while. I know she did talk about with masks that, because I said it'd be hard to do one with it, and she said, yeah, you would sort of have it like this, but then while they were cutting here, you could just take off your tie and just hold it on your face. So they're going to find ways to get around, around all that. I still think it's going to be a little while before I brave that. I'm going to wait and see how the numbers go. It's very encouraging. This past week here in BC, we've had less than 20 cases, new cases every day. 2 of the days it was under 10. So out of a population of 5.1 million people, that is very encouraging. Having said that, there is a local nursing home that has seen a rise in cases. A couple of weeks ago there was 1, and now I think they're up to 9. Sadly, 1 person has passed away. So we know it's still out here in the community, and so I just really hope that people will continue to be mindful of things like physical distancing and such. We have been, normally, long weekend, we'd be heading up to the cabin. Almost every year that's what we do, but people are being asked to avoid non-essential travel this weekend. I suspect that a lot of people will ignore that. Maybe that's the cynic in me, but that's how I feel. It will be interesting to see on Monday afternoon just how crowded the freeway is. Normally on the Monday of a long weekend, we can see the freeway from our back porch. And normally late in the afternoon, traffic slows right down to a crawl for, I don't know, half hour, an hour. So it'll be interesting to see how much traffic we notice on the freeway this weekend. I didn't mention last week, but I'm happy to say that my son, who had been laid off during this time, has been back to work full time, so that is good news. So he only in the end missed probably about 6 weeks maybe of work. So it could have been a lot worse. So it's good there's a demand, and good that he had a place to go back to. Pardon me. Yeah, and everyone else continue to do well. My younger son is still working from home for the time being, and that seems to be going just fine. So Cameron and I won't be doing a whole lot this weekend, although we did talk about maybe getting into the garage and doing some cleanup. But the weather's not supposed to be that great anyway, so it's not like we'll miss being away quite as much as we would if it was nice and sunny, as it often is on the Victoria Day weekend. So I am looking forward next week to hitting the garden store and picking up some bedding plants. I have been really trying to avoid non-essential outings the past few weeks, and so now I feel like I can in good conscience go and get some plants. So that's my plan, and other than that, I think I'll be sticking pretty close to home as I have been doing all along, and just keep an eye on the numbers. Like I say, I just hope that people really do take it seriously and don't get too lax too quickly. I think that is it for this week. So thank you as always for watching. I hope that you all stay well, stay healthy, and if all goes as planned, I will see you again next week. Take care until then.